Again, has a programmed avatar. I've met Chad, and he sounds nothing like this. Yeah, this will be available, Jason, captured, so you'll be able to go back and watch this again.
Yep.
Through Jason's site, on the live site on Jason's site. Okay. Thank you, Jason, by the way, again. Thank you for live streaming this tonight.
Thank you. One more question.
Yeah.
Are the upgrades free, or if we buy Genesis?
The question was, let's talk about first how much does Genesis cost, and how much do the upgrades cost?
Okay.
Child themes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm actually, let's just go to the site. Being a business partner of Studio Press, I haven't had to pay a single dime for it. So let's take a look at pricing here.
You don't have to rub it in.
Rub it in.
What a jerk.
Hey,
All right, thanks, Chad. We'll see you later.
This will be the next to last time you're invited.
I paid a lot more than $300 for the amount of time and effort to put on into helping with the platform. A single theme with Genesis, usually about $100. Some of the themes might be like $79. All of their themes plus the support's like $300. It includes all future themes that they make. Basically, Brian Gardner is very much, I mean, he's one of the closest people to Matt Mullenweg, and I always feel like it's like, you know, so if Matt Mullenweg is the godfather of WordPress, Brian Gardner is almost like the great uncle. He's been so close into it. His belief of GPL is so pure to it that his whole thought process is you're paying for access to his support forum because it's GPL. Legally, you know, there are torrents out there where you can download it. You just don't get that great support forum that they have available. But you know, pretty much once you have it, you can upgrade the thing as long as you want. They will come out with like their lifestyle theme. They just did come out with a lifestyle 2.0 that took advantage of with the single post types, where you can say it's a video or a chat or a blog, and you know, it's really, I haven't seen a child theme take advantage of so much that's in WordPress 3.1. You know, so those would be maybe some areas you'd want to, you know, go back on in. But after it's on the site, your client can, you know, you can walk away from your client. They'll be able to do one-click Genesis updates at any point.
So that price is essentially a developer license.
Yeah, essentially. They don't believe in developer licenses. So either you get one child in the Genesis or all childs in Genesis. No wishy-washy how much money you're going to give them to get how much access. You know, you get your PSDs, everything. It's not this like, well, you know, that's one thing I had problems with Woo themes when we were developing on them. And it's like, oh, you spend another $100 to get the PSDs, or else you're creating it from scratch.
Hers says 59.
Yeah, and
I like her
when I looked
price.
the other day, I thought I saw 3 pricing options. There was something in the middle too.
That's
Look
on
it
the
up.
Studio
I'll look it up.
Press. That's
Yeah,
on the
so I
Studio
think
Press
it's
site.
A/B testing.
It's not some other
There
site.
is sort of 3. You can buy Genesis by itself,
Hang on a
or
sec,
you
Chad.
get Genesis and the
Yeah.
child.
Okay.
And that's probably what she was seeing.
Maybe that's what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just the Genesis framework, $59.95.
Okay.
There you go.
If I could do you guys one big favor, I would say, if it's the first time you're developing a child theme from scratch, at least have a child theme there that is very cool, so you can see what they're doing. Because it's so different than developing just with a straight theme where you start writing different loops and things like that. Pay the extra $20, get the lifestyle theme, and then just rummage through it, hack it. Or if you are a thesis fanatic, check out Prose. It's you know, it's not a CMS layout. It's a traditional blog layout, but it has the back-end capability for the clients to change the color schemes, the fonts, everything from one admin page.
There's something else, Warren?
No, I'm just
Stretching. Chad, have you personally tested this on WordPress 3.2?
I have not. I've got one of my junior developers that is working on that. I kind of got, thank you for reminding me, I've been meaning to ask her how it's coming along. But that's the nice thing with Genesis. They're going to be, they're going to have a Genesis update available the second 3.2 goes live, if not before, once it gets into a final release candidate. So you shouldn't have any problems with a Genesis-based site. Plugins maybe, but Genesis itself, they're really good about that. We've seen them through like 2.9.2 is when Genesis came out. 3.0, we made the transition, which was a tough transition. We made it seamlessly.
Cool. Thank you.
Steve was just actually looking for a segue to the next presentation.
Excellent.
That's probably accurate. Any last questions for Chad before we let him go? Chad, thank you again. I really appreciate
Chad,
it.
thanks, buddy. Awesome. We'll see you at Inman.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sorry, you have to live in Modesto.
All right. Any other questions or comments on Genesis before we move on? Anybody gonna try Genesis now that you've seen it?
I would like to hear your opinion versus Genesis versus Woo versus Starter Box versus Thesis.
I can't give you a personal opinion. I haven't used Genesis yet. I've only used Woo themes, so that's the only one I can speak on. But I know Brandon uses it extensively. Lauren,
I could try to answer his question between Genesis and Thesis.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, what's the specific question between the two? Have you used
Just your opinion on whether, between the two, which do you prefer and why?
I was a Thesis junkie and I'm switching to Genesis just because there's more options available for example coding, and they're also GPL compliant, which seems to be a nice key sticking point. And Thesis itself has kind of languished on its updates. It's supposed to be coming out with a new version. Who knows, sometimes in the next few months, it could be next year, where Genesis keeps updating regularly.
Okay. Go ahead. Anything to add?
Genesis is a solid framework. I mean, in comparison to Woo, I know that Woo has some issues with security, so I would be wary about that.
But Woo isn't really a developer's framework.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
Well,
meant
that's
for,
what's even worse about it.
yeah, it's meant, Woo is meant for
I'm talking about-
turnkey, out of the box, you use it as is. It's not really meant for customizing.
Well, they do have a Woo framework.
Some Woo, there is a Woo framework. Nothing, it's nothing like
It's not
Genesis.
like Genesis. It's
What
not
if
a
you're not a coder?
Yeah.
I think Genesis is way better because you have all these different child themes you can choose from,
So-
and it's much easier to tweak via the interface that he's shown. I mean, if you're not going to go with something like a Headway or whatever.
But just to be clear, if people missed it, Genesis is essentially its own platform, right? So you get the Genesis framework, and then you're buying themes that sit on top of that. Your
Right.
child themes are sitting on top of that.
Well, back to your
right.
comments about like I think it was Jeff was talking about like plugin compatibility. It offers so much out of the box that you're eliminating half the
plugin
plugins
issues.
you would put in anyways. So
Sure.
it's a solid framework.
Can you speak on the security side of it? Well, how he kept talking about how secure it was versus other themes.
So I think the biggest thing about Genesis is that they develop with the WordPress framework in mind. So they use as much of WordPress internal functions as possible without reinventing the wheel. And that's how you're going to be the most secure, by following people like Mark Jakewith and things like that who have spent hours and hours hunting down security vulnerabilities in WordPress. They're piggybacking on that.
That is not true of Woo.
That is not true of Woo.
Yes.
They write everything from scratch.
Everything's custom in Woo.
Which is part of the problem.
We're going to get a demo of the next major release of Headway.
Good.
Either Grant Griffiths or
Good.
Clay Griffiths, and this is one of the most interesting things. Headway was written by Clay. Clay's still in high school.
Get
He's like
out.
17.
Seriously?
Is that why they keep him away from all this stuff?
He's not like
When he
17, he is
read that when he
17.
was like 3
That's awesome. The hashtag people like to use for him is too smart for Harvard.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to get a demo of that. I've seen it.
Okay.
It's unflippin' believable, but again, it has its own issues and it has its own potential drawbacks. From a person who's not a coder, and I'm really not a coder, Steve can attest to that, so can anybody else who's ever watched me do anything. But somebody who approaches things from a purely visual standpoint, as almost like a designer, I prefer Headway because I have full freedom to do anything I want. And I can't, because of the non-disclosure, tell you the major change that's going to take place in the next Headway, but it is ridiculous.
And what is
That's all I
that, do
can
you
say.
think?
I had hoped that I DM'd him just a few minutes ago to say, when can we get a demo of this? So
Hopefully the next
see
meetup.
how, we'll see how that goes.
Cool.
But it really is ridiculous.
Cool.
But I was actually really impressed with that. I'd never done a deep dive into the back of Genesis before, and so all of the things he was talking about are very similar, except with a more structured approach. So if you're not a graphic designer, this appears to be something that allows you to, plug and play a lot more simply than a Headway would in those scenarios.
Yeah.
I can tell you, as far as the support, they're very good about the support.
Genesis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I wanted to have a feature of this one in this child theme, and they had no problem sending me the code for it.
Oh,
awesome.
Really? That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. How quick was the turnaround?
A couple hours.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed.
That's great.
I can't get a phone call back from Steve in a couple hours.
That's true. Do you have a license?
Yes.
The $299? Developer license. Okay.
Driver's license. Does that help?
Yeah. Anything else on Genesis or any other frameworks?
I have a question about Genesis and the support. Like with Thesis, you're being supported by the community. Is that the same with Genesis?
It has, it's a forum. You go into the forum and you can either find your question and answer there, or you can ask the question and somebody from there will answer.
Okay, at least you have that option.
Yes.
Okay.
So Studio Press has a support staff?
That was the impression I got.
That's the appearance I get too.
I can tell you Brian Gardner has emailed me several times in response when I had trouble.
Great.
Yeah, try emailing Chris Pearson from Thesis and expecting a response.
But Godhammer and Gurley will respond to you.
Try emailing Steve from Zeke. That guy's a jerk. Next year.
For that.
Next year sometime. Yeah.
So Jeff, what about between Builder and Headway? What would you say? Because Builder was a little bit more, when we have that demo as a designer, it was a little bit more free.
I'm going to ask you to wait to see what this release looks like. I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you that you've never seen anything like it ever.
You mean Headway?
Yeah.
I can't figure it out.
No, I'm talking about the new version. The next version is.
It's going to be really drag and drop?
It's a
Because right now I don't think it's really drag and drop.
We're trying to get you to tell us that we will be able to use it.
Right now it's drag and drop for children.
Right, yeah, exactly.
If you're watching this, I apologize. It's a complete departure from anything you've ever seen. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
No, I said I think Headway is drag and drop for developers, for coders.
Not for dummies.
Not for dummies. And I bought it like drag and drop finally.
The next one will be drag and drop for designers.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude.
Okay.
How long till it comes out?
Grant Griffiths, come save me. You're done.
Any minute now, right?
We're done.
Any minute.
All right. Anything else before we move on?
Well, that's exciting.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. So anyway, that was good. Everybody's got the discount code for Genesis, so it's 25% off of any of those. I think any of those prices that you saw if you use the discount code.
Okay.
So OC Meetup is the discount code. Did everybody tweet about? What did we show? Discuss. Everybody tweet about discuss already. All right. I'm only on one beer. All right. Yeah, I need one. Okay.
People aren't learning even watching.
Who has installed WordPress 3.2 Release Candidate 2, which just came out last week? End of last week? Okay.
I think
I'm running it here. When we looked at Discuss earlier, I'm actually running WordPress 3.2 Release Candidate 2, which is supposed to be their final release. That's the rumor that's going around. So this should be out any day now, 3.2. We demoed this pretty extensively last month, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But if you haven't, tried this, I highly recommend that you do. It's got a lot of really nice features inside of 3.2. Anybody want to point out anything specific that we talked about last month? That exciting? The first thing you'll notice is the rescan. So a lot more stuff is fitting above the fold. So they've tightened up the left-hand bar here. They've pushed a lot more above the fold, so you're going to see a lot more of your navigation. So it's especially important if you're using things like Genesis or something like a syndication plugin or other plugins that are installing extra navigation. You need this screen real estate. So this is key. But the whole interface got a makeover. And it's really pretty nice. It's aesthetically, I think it's welcome. One of the things that I like is, again, I'm not gonna cover all of 3.2, but one of the things that I like a lot is the new way that they do full screen. So there already is a full screen button inside of 3.1, but the full screen now really does focus you in on your content.
I don't even know.
Pretty much everything went away here, and now I'm just sort of focused in on writing. Title. So again, everything. This is sort of full screen post mode. So that's a new addition. What's that?
Just saying, I never knew about that functionality until you showed us that a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I didn't.
Cool. There was something else major inside of 3.2, and I'm spacing now. But what's that?
Well, you might want to mention PHP 5.
Yes.
5.2.4.
The new system it has new system requirements. So they, in addition to the makeover they've given here, the back end. Are you laughing at me?
Are you in trouble?
I don't know. I've done something. It does have new system requirements on the back end, so it does require MySQL 5, PHP 5.2.4 at a minimum. And the reason that's important is because they're using new database table types for all you techies out there. They're using new database table types, which actually makes the whole system incredibly is probably a stretch, much faster. And you'll notice it immediately. So as soon as you install this, if you upgrade just a test site that you have locally or one that you've got sitting on DevBox, you're going to notice speed improvements right away. So as you click around different menus and you're adding posts or viewing posts, especially go to a blog that you have a lot of posts, you're going to see things appear immediately where you see a lag time now in 3.1. And it really just has to do with the new database table types, indexing, that kind of thing. So I haven't really found any problems with this version. Actually, I didn't see a lot of problems in the beta, but this seems pretty stable. I was running this today when you guys were posting comments on this site today. This is all running in 3.2, so I expect this out any day now. With that, I think we covered everything we had on the agenda, so let's just open it up to discussions. Yes? No? Stretching again?
Yeah, I got a question actually.
Yeah.
It's actually a little nerdy on a database question.
That's cool.
So, if you have a string of words in a post, let's just say your company name. So instead of using like a user box at the bottom of the post, you're actually writing it in the post. And you decide to change jobs, change companies you work with, and you've written 300 posts.
Oh yeah.
Can you do like a find replace in PHP MyAdmin or something to replace that string?
Brandon's nodding his head, so I'm
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
How?
Oh, you have to write a SQL query.
Is there an easy way to do that? Is there anybody know?
There's a function called replace in MySQL that you can use.
So it's just a
super
query
easy
on the whole database.
Yeah, and it'll actually go through all the actual posts.
For the non-techies in the room, are there any plugins that will do something like that?
I think there's one called Find and Replace or Search and Replace that actually handles it pretty well.
Okay.
I think it does proper reserialization when it needs to, too.
Huh.
Hey, Steve,
You get the exact name here.
on the other side of this conversation, can you maybe go through your checklist of what you look for when you do an upgrade on WordPress?
But he doesn't like look for anything.
I'm
he just
terrible. I'm so.
What are you asking?
Oh, it's broken.
I will absolutely pose that question to the group in a second.
Hit the button and see what breaks.
Looks like there's a couple of plugins that came up here, but I just did a search. My search was WordPress Find and Replace. is what I did in Google, and this came up with a couple plugins right away. So looks like there are some easy plugins to do that. So that might save you some work. Yeah. Might save you some work. I know what you're getting at, though.
Or at least go back up first.
Yes.
I know what you're getting at, though, and we run into that as well. So the question was, repeat the question.
Well, I mean, just, you move into a new version on a live site. I know you're going through the process with a couple of your bigger sites to move them in. Like, what are the places? I mean,
just
I know
throw in the files. Just throw in the files and hope for the best.
Yeah.
No.
The FTP blender.
Yeah. So the question is how do you upgrade a site? What are the steps you go through to upgrade a site? So I'm gonna freeform this as if I'm a professional. We have a setup. Every site we work on is we work locally first. So our larger sites, and I've explained this a couple times in other meetings, and this is actually true. We have 3 versions of every site. We're working locally on our various developers' computers. We have a staging server or a development server, and then we have the live server. So no piece of code in general gets pushed to the live site just without testing first. Yeah. I'm saying mostly. That's usually the case.
Send some sarcasm.
So the procedure is usually install or change the code locally first, make sure it works using our various development tools. Put it on the staging server so that the client can test it and they can see that everything's working. And then when everybody has approved it, signed off on it, then we push it live. That's generally the way it works. That applies to upgrades as well. Now, the upgrade really depends on how major the upgrade is. So what we look at first is the upgrade going to require a database upgrade? So going from WordPress 3.1 to 3.2 is a database upgrade. So if you're working on an existing site, you put in release candidate 2, WordPress 3.2, the first thing you're going to get when you go to the dashboard of that site is a button that says upgrade your database. That can be dangerous if you're just doing that to your live production server. Typically what we'll do on our larger sites is we will plan a maintenance window. So we'll actually put the site in maintenance mode. So the public-facing site is just a maintenance page, says we'll be back online in an hour or so. We do our database upgrade in the background, and then we put the site back online. So that's kind of a general sense of how we do our upgrades. I'm now going to open it up to the group to see how other people might do the same kind of thing. Or maybe I've described it. Yeah?
The database upgrade, is that for 3.2, release 1 and 2?
If you're going from any 3.1 dot anything to 3.2, you're going to get the database upgrade. If you're going from release candidates, probably not, but results may vary because it is still beta software. I wouldn't recommend that you put any 3.2 version on a real site yet until they release the final version. So your database upgrade should be when they've actually released 3.2.
So is a database upgrade a press a button thing?
Yes. I actually may be able to show you what that looks like. So this isn't generally how I upgrade a site. Let me see if I've got a site here.
Do you do anything, do you take down any plugins when you're doing on a major site?
I missed one step. We will do a full database dump. So we'll do a full database backup before we do the database upgrade. So we will actually have a backup of the code, a backup of the database. Everything is backed up, and then we start the upgrade process. That way, if anything goes wrong, we can always revert back to where we started. Oh.
Nice.
Oh, fail.
In the meantime, Grant Griffith says 2 weeks.
Oh, right on.
Wow.
Oh, so if you already have it, do you just upgrade to the new one?
I believe so. It's a major upgrade, so
Yeah,
I can't answer for
Yeah.
sure.
And it's headway, so.
I just bought it.
No, I'm getting permission. I'm talking.
Keep talking.
He also says, you should see what Clay has coming. I get goosebumps every time he shows me.
Wow.
which is, you know, kind of tingly.
What's his?
And is that his son?
Proud papa.
Okay, that's his
Oh,
son.
that's his
and you
son.
said you're not a geek.
Not a geek.
Okay, so I've got a local version of the Zeek site, which is on 3.13 right now. I'll go ahead and upgrade this, okay? In general, there's several ways to actually do the upgrade. Most people are going to be using an FTP client. You're just going to drag in the new core files from WordPress and then run your database upgrade. That's the simplest way to upgrade WordPress. We run everything through a code repository. We've talked about it several times in these meetings. We personally use Git, G-I-T. So all of our code actually gets pushed through a code repository first. I'm not going to get into the ones and zeros of that right now. Yes?
When you're doing like a large site with multiple authors and they're all constantly posting to the site and making changes and stuff like that, is there a tool or some plugin or something, or even just a setting in WordPress to turn on and off their ability to post? Like, other than going in there and saying you're no longer an author, now you're going to be
Not that I
else?
know of. I don't know if anybody has any other solutions
There
for
is
that.
a
Yeah.
lockout. It will allow you to lock out based on role.
Okay.
Perfect.
So you can lock out different roles and just leave the administrator intact.
Okay.
Lock
we'll
out the space.
We typically control it in a different way. We'll plan that maintenance window. Everybody on the team knows when the maintenance window is, and then when we put up the maintenance page, they're automatically locked out. They have no access to files at that point.
Users
and actually,
are users, though,
we control
so.
it by IP address, so we make sure that only our IP address can see the back end of the site. So that even the authors are locked out of the system. at that
WordPress
point.
has its own maintenance mode thing when you upgrade that too.
Yeah. Yep.
Not that you should rely on that. but-
Nope. No comment.
I'm not saying I don't.
No comment. I've given this tip before, but one of the things I always do when I download a copy of WordPress, I've always got a copy of the latest WordPress on my hard drive. Actually, I've got all versions of WordPress on my hard drive. But one of the first things I do is I rename WP content to WP content-sample or something else. That way, if I accidentally drag that folder into my live site, I'm not going to overwrite my WP content folder. I've learned that the hard way several times. So that's one thing they actually should do by default, but your WP content folder comes named WP content. That's where all your themes are, that's where your uploads folder is, it's where your plugins folder is. If you overwrite that folder with what's in the WordPress folder, you're hosed.
Yeah, unless you've done a backup.
Unless you've done a backup, but most likely you're hosed.
You're hosed.
Yes. Anyway, so what I do, I'm just doing a very simple way. You would do this normally through an FTP client. I've got everything located locally here. I'm just going to take the WordPress core files from WordPress 3.2 and copy them over into my local version of the Zeek site. You can see there what I did is I deselected WP config and WP content because I don't need them. If I drag them in, they're not going to do anything anyway.
Why wouldn't you just throw those files away? Or that folder and that's what I do. I throw them away so I don't do that.
Well, this does contain 2011. So if I choose to use 2011, which most likely I'm not, I want it there because I may just put that in individually. It will contain the latest version of the Keysmet. I keep that separate, but there is a necessary reason to have that stuff.
For this type? Or for any type?
It's site specific.
Yeah.
So all I'm going to do here is just drag these files, into my local Zeek folder. I'm going to replace everything. The only thing I'm writing here is core files. Okay. It's copied in. Now, when the first time I go in here and reload the dashboard, I get that. Everybody seen this screen? That's it. So the front end of the site actually works, although I wouldn't recommend leaving it live like this for too long. But this is what you get when you try to go into the dashboard. So it's a very simple click this button and upgrade the database. Now, again, this is where I'd be very careful if you're dealing with sites that have high traffic, a lot of content, a lot of simultaneous users. That's where you run into problems with this, and that's why we have those maintenance windows to do this kind of stuff on our larger websites. Most websites, this will happen in just a couple of seconds, and you're off and running, and you're done. When we do these things, we tend to do these late at night. We'll usually do these after about 11 o'clock Pacific time, is when we do our maintenance windows. I clicked it, it upgraded my database. You saw how fast that was. I'm local. On a server, it might take a few seconds, again, depending on the size of the database. Now I'm upgraded to WordPress 3.2. Okay. One caveat. Hang on one second, Brandon. If you are in a multi-site situation, it is different. Okay, so it's not this simple if you're running WordPress multi-site. Okay, WordPress multi-site does not present you that button. What it does is it'll put a little yellow bar at the top, and in the network admin of multi-site, you actually have to go in and it upgrades each site individually. It'll go through the process for you, but it does take a lot longer, and it'll lead you through that. So that's the difference. If you're running multi-site, it's not exactly like this.
Just one thing to be aware of is in different versions of WordPress, they get rid of files sometimes.
Yeah.
And so if you're just dragging files up to your FTP, depending on how you have the FTP configured, it may not get rid of, like it may not just delete the folder and then upload a new one, it just might merge the folder. So you might have some straggling files there. They shouldn't cause any problems, but it's just another way of, to be secure.
Shouldn't is the key word. It has caused problems in the past.
So just what we generally do is just like you guys, we put up a maintenance page. We actually delete WP admin and WP includes.
Okay.
And then just drag up everything, because that way all the nested subfolders are gone.
You're starting clean.
Right.
Cool. Good tip.
That's nice.
Yep. Does that help? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on? Yeah.
I'm not sure with MySQL 5 and PHP 5, are those standard on hosts now?
I'm going to ask the DreamHost guy.
They are standard. Well, I know they're standard with us, but I know that a lot of hosts are not upgrading for some reason that I don't know. I guess they're afraid or they don't want. I don't exactly know what's going on, but you definitely want to double check. Probably mostly legacy sites, because some stuff just isn't compatible with PHP 5. But I mean, PHP 4 hasn't been. If you're looking for ammo for your host, PHP 4 hasn't been upgraded in 3-4 years now, so it's really insecure to be running anything on PHP 4 at this point.
Red Hat, is it the latest version of Red Hat or the last version of Red Hat? It's PHP 5.1 comes by default. And I run into that a lot is, if it's a fresh install of Red Hat, it's going to be 5.1. They have to go in and update PHP to the latest version. Is that the most current version of Red Hat? Is that the last version of Red Hat? Do you know?
I honestly, we run all Debian. I'm not sure what it is on Red Hat.
Okay.
So I don't know.
We ran into this specifically recently on a Sony site. They had to reconfigure a box for us. They put in just this week, they put in a fresh install of Red Hat, but it was PHP 5.1. So we had to actually go in and specifically ask them to upgrade to PHP. They brought it all the way up to PHP 5.3 or whatever the latest one is. MySQL is going to be pretty current. It's PHP where you run into the problems that I found. Did you have something, Lauren?
I was going to say on Bluehost and HostMonster and I think HostGator, they're by default, I think PHP 4 is still turned on, but you can go in there and actually choose to update to PHP 5. Whatever the latest is.
Great.
I know I ran into that a while ago. It might be different now, like maybe on a brand new installed account, but if you've had your account for a while, you can go in there and change it.
Okay.
So curiously, if you were to upgrade and you were on a server that was not compatible, is it going to present an error?
Yeah. I don't have any. Everything I have here is compatible.
I don't think they've put anything in it that's going to break in PHP 4. I don't think
a bunch of compatibility functions have been deleted.
Actually,
specifically deleted.
Actually,
they
today
went in and deleted almost everything that was supporting PHP 4 functions.
This isn't specific to WordPress, but you guys know I prefer Feed WordPress over WP-O-Matic. Feed WordPress is not compatible with this. I ran into a problem with that today, so I chose to use WP-O-Matic instead to pull in some of those posts. I ran into a bug right away with Feed WordPress. So again, it's not specific to WordPress, but it is a plugin. This isn't specific to PHP and MySQL, but if you're running older browsers or you've got some outdated technology, there's actually alerts right in your dashboard now that will show you you're using an older version of this or this, and it'll tell you right inside of WordPress now. The one where I noticed it is actually told me that Firefox 4 was outdated.
Yeah.
Now I've got Firefox 5. Did 4 just come and go?
See, that's what I thought too. It freaks me out. I thought it was a hack or something like that.
Yeah, I'm on Firefox 5. And I got Firefox 4 like a week ago.
Same thing.
Yeah,
It was
me too,
weird. It
and
was
now
very
it's not
weird.
compatible with a bunch of stuff. Yeah,
Very bizarre. Yeah.
I lost
What
my
happened?
SEO toolbar and everything.
They're changing to try and match Chrome's upgrade schedule, basically. they're going
So they
to,
just-
they're treating
Here is
the
another
major
release that
versions-
means-
they're
Skip
now
the whole
treating the
release.
major
Yeah.
versions as basically separate versions. And I think they said right now they're doing every 3 months, they're gonna release a new major version.
Really?
And they've already, because of that, I mean, they're
Firefox
taking it
25 by next
seriously.
year.
They dropped Firefox 4 security updates right when they released Firefox 5. So they're going to try and make basically everyone continue to upgrade as if it were a security upgrade.
Was it out a month? I mean, it was. It was
No, barely. Yeah, it went out there, and suddenly,
Okay.
oh my god, I think it's
All right, I'm glad it wasn't me.
Yeah.
All right.
I was surprised too initially.
I think they should start naming them after years, like Windows did for
Yeah.
forever. You know? Go back to the year naming. It was- it was
Yeah, I like
fun.
Ubuntu's method.
All right. Anyway, what else? That's it? You guys have let me off easy tonight.
What's your birthday week?
It is my birthday week. Thank you.
You should sing.
Thank you. All right. So I don't know how long I'll be there, but we always meet at the House of Brews afterwards. So if anybody needs directions, it's right down in Warner in Huntington Harbor, and hope to see you there. Otherwise, we'll see you next month. Developer Day is going to be on the 11th, and then this will be in 4 weeks from now, on the last Monday of the month.
If you're in a chair that was here when you got here, can you just hold it up and stick it on the wall?
Thank you.
If you're in your own chair, I don't care what you